Hello, welcome to this month's edition of Street Warriors Arena. As you regular listeners will know, normally we interview people that have been in our DVDs, and they sort of do this audio training CD with us. Pretty unusual this month, bit different in the way that we're going to interview somebody who hasn't been in one of our DVDs yet, anyway. Hoping perhaps do something with him in the near future. And the reason for that is just that it changes things a little bit, but also guy I'm interviewing says such a good martial artist that we thought that we'd sort of get him to do this audio training CD. We're actually going to do 2 or 3 of these over the year, next year or so, with people that aren't in our DVD, sort of guest appearances, if you like. And the chap in question is a chap called Ian Bromley. Hello, Ian.
Hiya, mate. You alright?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Ian is, I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself in a minute, but primarily what Ian does is catch wrestling, and he's a coach of, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but he coaches catch wrestling to a massive variety of people, including people that are in MMA. Can you give us a bit about your background first, Ian, sort of your history of how you got into martial arts and wrestling?
Yeah, I was 9 years old, and my brother did karate, and I just decided I wanted to do it, and everyone was into Bruce Lee when I was a kid. So, but I've tried many things. Got into wrestling a few years later. I wrestled in Wigan, in Cheadle. I went to the Y Club. I trained with a guy, best coach I've had really, I think, is Roy Wood. Did my freestyle wrestling with him, won the English. And then I started researching the catch wrestling because it's from Wigan. A lot of English people don't actually know that. And it was, sorry.
No. Sorry for interrupting, but you say about Wigan. We'll go on to that a little bit more after. A lot of our listeners, of course, are in America, but the people that are into wrestling will probably have heard of Wigan, won't they? Even though, and you English listeners probably won't believe this because Wigan is quite a small place, and you'd think that it was unheard of. But I believe in America, it's a bit of a mecca for wrestlers, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the Snake Pit, Billy Riley's. Carl Gotch come over, and he was world champion this and world champion that, and by all accounts he got schooled at Billy's, and he ended up moving to Wigan for 2 years. Lived above a laundrette and trained out of there. So obviously wasn't as good as what he thought he was, you know.
Okay, so for the people that don't know about kind of wrestling history or whatever, the guy that came over was a high quality American wrestler.
Carl Gotch, he was actually Belgian as far as I'm aware. They say he's German, they say he's Belgian. He was an icon in America, he become an icon in Japan. Like I said, he turned up at Billy Riley's and basically got his backside handed to him. It's true. Decided to train with Billy. The Japanese go mad. A gentleman actually called Billy Robinson that trained with Billy Riley went out to Japan eventually and started the Snake Pit in Japan, and he had fighters like Sakuraba under his belt. And just the history of it. The history, it is from the north of England.
Okay, so going back to you for a minute, we'll get back onto the kind of Wigan thing in a minute and wrestling generally. So you started sort of like a lot of people in sort of traditional martial arts, and you went into wrestling. And where did you see catch wrestling first?
Well, I researched it. We always heard about it because Roy Wood was on the circuit. Roy's a real gentleman, and he did catch wrestling, and he had a couple of older guys down at his gym in Aspel that went on the circuit with him, and I researched it, and it just took off from there. And I wanted to learn about the hooking and the holds, and I met Tony Cicchini, and then I progressed, and I met I phoned a guy called Billy Wicks. They're all called Billy. Well, anyway, I emailed him to start with, and he was an old Carney, what they call a Carney shooter or Carney fighter, hooker, and he put me on to John Husky, who was his protege for 11 years, and the rest is history. I took it up from there.
Okay, so yeah, you did karate, then went into the wrestling, and then is catch wrestling now the thing that you love sort of so much that that's purely what you do?
Yeah, I basically do catch-can wrestling. Billy actually certified the gym in Stockport, Manchester, as an actual Carney style catch wrestling gym, which differs slightly. I'm with only the fifth gym or fifth person he's ever certified, so we're honoured really. And the other 4 are actually in America; they're not in the UK. And I've took it from there. But I mean, I do it because it's so real. It's not round the houses. It's so direct, and it works. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, great. So From that's an interesting point for the listeners. Actually, if catch wrestling is something you want to do, and we'll get into a little bit more about the differences in a minute. But if it's something you want to do and you're not in America, then the certified place outside of America really is your place.
Well, apparently, according to Billy, Billy fought on the carnivals. He don't give these things away. I feel honoured. I told him I didn't believe I was good enough to take it, but we wrestled in front of him and we trained with his lads. We have John, who, like I say, was his protege. We have John doing over seminars once a year. He wants me to go into Europe and coach. I hope it comes off. We've done a couple of seminars, so yeah, we'll take it from there.
Yeah, okay, so there you go, guys. I know we've got a lot of listeners in Scandinavia, which, flight is probably 70, 80 UK pounds from Sweden or whatever to the UK. If you want to come and train at a catch wrestling gym, and you don't want to go to America, basically, the other one is in Northern England, near South Manchester. You can come and train with Ian. Okay, so and we have a vast range of people listening to this. Some are very knowledgeable in martial arts and are into wrestling or other martial arts. Others aren't. But can you just tell us the difference, listeners, the difference between kind of standard wrestling that everyone knows and catch wrestling? Yeah.
Well, standard wrestling, what I class as standard wrestling, freestyle wrestling, if you go to your back, the bout's over because there's a set of rules. Carney style wrestling, although a freestyle wrestler won't fight a Carney style wrestler, it's a ridiculous thing because they're fighting for points. If I want to compare it against a BJJ, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player, they have a lot of guard work on the back. Wrestlers don't like to be on the back, full stop. The other fundamental difference is we don't do a lot of, how can I say, it's more direct. If there's a foot there, we take it, we crank it. If the neck, if the hands, if the arms, the legs, we don't go round the houses. And the submissions are more brutal. And like Billy said to me last time I was out there, they don't teach counters. He said, listen, this is not me saying this is what Billy said. And Billy said they teach counters in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because they can't put it on right in the first place. So.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Okay, so... and again, this is for the absolute novices that don't know. So in the catch wrestling, you start stood up, do you?
Yeah, it's like a wrestling bout. We do isolate. We start on our backs, or we start on our sides, or on top, or underneath. But if you want to go a full bout, you start from your feet, you roll, you take down, single legs, double legs. But we're after... Literally, it's called the art of hooking or the art of shooting, and to hook something is to catch it. Catch as catch can is to is basically is to catch any way you can, i.e. take the arm, take the leg. We're allowed to neck crank in our class and spine lock. You're not allowed to do it in a BJJ class or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, and I'm not calling it. It's just they won't let you do it. You'd be thrown out. You're not allowed to do it. Full stop.
Okay, yeah, fine. And again, excuse my lack of knowledge on it, but that's where the name catch comes from then?
Yeah, catch as catch can, catch any way you can. It was developed, it goes way back. There's text of it being from the Roman invasion. They called Lancashire the Albion, and there's text of wrestlers from Wigan there. But actual catch as catch can wrestling was developed by the miners in Wigan as a pastime, believe it or not.
Okay, great. Okay, so when you say about the Carney wrestling, what's that and what's the difference with that?
Billy talks about the Carney wrestling last time we was out there, and it was just that basically he was fighting at £180 and he could have anything, 17, 18, 19 stoners coming on the carnivals. So the stuff he developed, it's basically catch wrestling, but he had to get the bout over as quick as he could, and he used to say to me he used to tear rotator cuff muscles or crank necks, they used him as what they call a policeman, and a policeman was a guy they used to send on at the carnivals to finish these guys that were really good, i.e. collegiate wrestlers or freestyle Olympic standard wrestlers.
Sorry for interrupting you. Just take a little bit of a backward step there. So, again, for the people who don't know anything about this was in the olden days at carnivals.
50s and 60s when Billy was fighting. And Billy's work schedule's unreal. This was every night. He was going from state to state or different carnivals in the same state. And he said to me, look, the stuff I used had to work, and he developed this, i.e. wrist locks, neck cranks, heel hooks, to finish his opponent, not to score points, to actually break something. So,
and that's where that was developed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the catch wrestling, and he said to me, I got him a book while I was out there with some English wrestlers, and he said to me, I wrestled him, and he was underlining him through the book who he'd rolled with. But his actual, before it was predetermined some of his bouts, when they were worked, he actually used, his stuff was used for breaking bones, and that's what he stands by, you know.
And that's the Carney wrestling?
Carney wrestling, the Carney hooking, yeah. He has to snap his opponent's legs and arms, and he told me he has done plenty of times.
Oh, nice.
No, not really, no. He didn't have a mat, and it was, it was pretty miserable life, I guess.
Okay, so, and then the catch is what? Is like a development from that, or another form?
No, catch wrestling was about anyway. This is just Billy's take on it, i.e. his way of putting stuff on, his way of cranking. But like he said, like the sooner I got the guy out of there, the quicker I got paid and the less chance of me getting hurt. They used to take him. He told me he used to take him to bars and clear the tables and push him in. And he said people were stubbing cigarettes out on me and throwing glass on the arena. So he had to finish these guys quickly. And I could say £180 isn't a big man. So, they could throw anyone. He could have been 20 stone. And he said, and I fought a few of them. So the guy, he developed this and it works.
Yeah, okay, great. Now, the listeners of this, some of them are very inexperienced, and you've got traditional martial artists and you've got MMA guys. Leaving the MMA for a minute, the stuff you do, the catch wrestling, what have you, I presume that would bring a lot to somebody's game for street self-defence as well.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's real. Because if you roll alive in a class, it's real, Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, you can punch and you can hit, and it's great. But for streets, you take him down and choke him. It's over quicker. It's just, to me, and it develops you. I presume it develops you mentally, physically. You become stronger. You're rolling about for an hour on a mat. You certainly, no disrespect to karate or kung fu or taekwondo, you're a lot more adept for a street because you've done it. You've already done it. It's for real.
And the finishing techniques, brutal finishing techniques as well.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously in a class situation with your friends, he'll tap out. But if it's for self-defense, you just rip it. That's what it is, the art of ripping or hooking. That's exactly what it is. And the other fundamental difference is when you keep training this and keep practicing it, you can use your chin, your elbows, your knees into the soft areas, and you position the guy. You're getting elbows in the spine and the side of the ribs, and getting ripped with elbows, it hurts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Now, from and this is where I suppose. There'd be a lot of benefits to some of the listeners. MMA, in the MMA game, I know you've got a lot of guys that come into your gym that are in that game. Why is it sort of so good for them as opposed to the other kind of ground games in MMA?
Because it's based in top position and it's more direct. It's just, you don't go around the houses. If something's there, if some guy's giving you a foot, you take it and you crank it, and you mix that in with your strikes, and you're as well-rounded as you're going to be. And also, like I say, mentally and physically, you're probably tougher because of the amount of stick you've took in the class. So for me, yeah, it's better. For me personally, it's better. Yeah. I'm not judging any other style, any other system, but for me, it works.
Yeah, lovely, great stuff. Okay, so you mentioned a couple of names before. Where would you say your biggest sort of influences are then in this?
John Husky, it has to be, and obviously Billy Wicks. I'd like to go again this year. We spoke about flying out there to see him. Billy's seen it, done it, got the t-shirt. He's got inch-sized segs on his forearms where he cross-face people in the carnivals. Johnny Husky's amazing, just amazing. He's in so much demand. Josh Barnett wants to work with him. Randy Couture wants to work with him. Massive influence. He sent me discs from America, and yeah, I mean, they're real. The lads that they train, they're virtually cleaning up in the States. They're winning, so it speaks for itself. It's proof.
Okay, yeah, lovely. Okay, so yeah, well, I mean, I think that's from a brief overview of what you do. That's superb. Good stuff. Good idea now, Ian, if it's all right with you, is if we start off sort of at the head and move down, and we can go through some sort of fundamentals and moves and what have you, starting with the head. Sort of your favourite moves, if you like, the head and neck.
See, a lot of grappling systems talk about sleeper holds and this, that, and the other, but another fundamental difference is with Carney style catch wrestling, especially the neck cranks. A sleeper hold, you can count down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and he'll start going. You see, crank, it's 10, and it's on. It's split second. So we do a lot of cranks. For those that do BJJ, they do north-south work. They'll understand this, and we do north-south, but it's a crank, not a choke. I get a lot of BJJ lads down. And they're surprised, well, shocked. They really are shocked, you know. Then moving down the body, we have what we call double wrist lock.
Sorry. On the crank again. So the difference with crank is, sorry, what was that?
It's breaking your neck. So in the class situation, obviously you're going to tap outside. I don't condone it. I don't condone it. But if you were him and you're going to crank his neck and pop a disc, well, for me, so be it. I'm not callous, but so be it. But
yeah, no, I mean that guy is using it in self-defence. That guy's doing something to you. You're going to do whatever you can.
Yeah, he's been provoked. But as I say, in a match situation, it's very, very rare we get anyone injured in here because it's responsible training.
Yeah, of course. But also, again, going back to the MMA, I suppose it's people that can hold out before tapping for choking, but cranking it's going to be hard, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's on. It doesn't matter what you're taking, what you're doing. And listen, I'm sorry, but I know that steroids are prevalent in MMA. I know there's a lot of strong lads, but it doesn't matter what's in your system at the time. A neck crank's a neck crank. You're going to give it up. It's a sharp pain, and you have to tap.
Okay, lovely. Now moving down then, shoulders and arms.
Well, we use what we call a double wrist lock. Unless you have it on you don't realise the pain it's causing. It's bone breaking. It's bone on bone, your shoulders popping, it's this, it's that, it's the other. BJJ call it Kimura, but it's not as bad as a wrist lock. The double wrist lock, your forearm snapping, like say, your biceps tearing, your shoulders popping out. So with that in mind, the fundamentals, it's a different animal altogether, you know.
Okay, lovely. So yeah, that's the wrists and arm. If we move down then, sort of knees and ankles.
I mean, another thing we have is a thing called a heel hook. Now, again, BJJ will call it a heel hook, but our heel hook's totally different. It's like their Achilles lock, where it's just, again, it's the small portion of your bone between the end of your wrist we use in every submission. There's no fleshy bit. It's just a pure bone on bone, and that's what does the damage, and it does tear. I mean, for me to explain on audio is quite difficult, but to actually see it it would make sense. It makes you feel sick. It tears. I go back to Billy. Billy said it was to tear and to rip. It wasn't just to hear the guy tap out, it was to actually tear something from his anatomy. So with that in mind, that's giving you an insight into what we do.
And again, you guys that listen to this for street self-defence, they're going to come running after you with something torn down there, is he?
No, you pull his foot off, he's staying down into it. I mean, people will laugh. You grab an arm, you can put these wrist locks on in a blink of an eye. You know, in a heartbeat, you can put these on. They're done. You snap an arm, you punch him in the face, he'll come back. You snap an arm, even if he's drugged out of his mind. You know, if you can put this on right when it hits the fan, if you can put that wrist lock on right, he's done. He's finished. It's over. Game over.
Yeah, and again for MMA, you got these guys that are training to withstand this. But again, if you're snapping and ripping something, no one's going to take that.
No, because the pain. You're going to stay down. If you might be a guy that doesn't feel pain, but if your Achilles burst, if your Achilles torn, you can't get to your feet. I'm not condoning it again, but if that's what it takes and that happens, well, the guy can't get to his feet, or either guy arm. You know, we watched Sakuraba take Enzo Gracie to pieces in Japan, and he said he'd never tapped to Sakuraba. Sakuraba left his arm at a right angle in the double wrist lock position. He snapped his shoulder. And he left him sat there with his arm bent up back. When he took his hands off him, it was paralysed, it was snapped, it was there. Right. And he pointed at him like, you weren't going to tap, so I'll snap it. So the stuff works.
Yeah, I know it's something that we're sort of getting asked a lot more about and what have you, and the home of the catch wrestling anyway is sort of looked upon as being Northern England, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where it develops in Wigan, you know. I mean, that's where people should read the history books. John Husky come over here and he was devastated that he was asking at seminars and guys were like, what do you mean it was in Wigan? Now, he's come from North Carolina. He knows the history of catch wrestling and these guys don't. So you need to get on the internet. It's all accessible. You only got to look up the Snake Pit. You'll find it. Go and read. And if you like what you see, get in touch, you know.
Right, superb. Right, Ian, as you know, we've got listeners to this all over the place, all over the world. You're available for seminars, I presume. How do we get a hold of you if they want you?
You can call me. Do you want my number? Do you want?
If you don't mind, or it might. I mean, they can ring us and we can pass it to you. Or have you got a website?
We've got a website, Stockport Fighters. If you want to get on Stockport Fighters, STOCKPORT and Fighters, just put it in the web search, and you'll get us up, and all the details are on there, including my phone number.
Okay, so just to recap that, Ian's got a gym, which is a great gym in North England. In fact, those of you that bought the DVDs, it's where we've been in there before and done a bit of filming. You've seen some of the footage with the gym. Well, that's Ian's gym. It's great, nice gym, all set up properly, nice mats. You can come and train here. I know some of you might be thinking, well, it's in another country, but he is available for seminars as well. Contact him via the website he just gave you. If you struggle, just email me. You've all got my email, and I can pass it on. I know Ian really well, so I can pass it on for you. Meet up with him, and especially you guys that are doing MMA or another kind of wrestling. This is another sort of string to your bow, as it were. But thanks very much, Ian.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, buddy. Take care.